So I compete at the Masters level, and I compete in the 40 to 45. 40 to 45 is a division of killers.
Yeah.
Same with many of the other divisions. You know, you go to Masters Nationals and you see the 55 to 60-year-olds.
Everybody's dialed in,
slaying it.
Yeah.
But then you see some of the other divisions, and the amount of participation is low. And then you start to say, well, you know, at what level is it considered a participation trophy? At what level is it a genuine competitive time? Should you have time standards to quantify whether or not somebody actually earned XYZ jersey or medal? We had that problem at the state championships on the road this year in the time trials. If you remember, Florida Bike Racing Association says if there's not X amount of people in your category, then you don't get a jersey. You can buy a jersey, but you don't get one. And then you have certain divisions where the people are setting tremendous times, but don't have anybody else in their division. And they kind of get a jersey by default, but they kind of don't because their time was super competitive. I believe one of the people that fell into that was Alex Zambrano.
Who's a good rider, man.
He set the fastest time of the day.
Yeah.
Pro 1-2, everything. Yet he didn't earn a jersey because there weren't enough people in the category. If I'm off on this, correct me and share your opinion on it. But
just generally, like I get what you're saying. And
so there's a battle on that where you don't know how do you quantify that. And I think Florida Bike Racing Association was trying to take away that participation trophy.
Right.
They may have been just trying to save money.
Right.
I don't know, but that was definitely an issue for a lot of people, and a huge hubbub went on about that. Still.
But, you know, like, I mean, that's a whole nother topic, but the structure of some of these events, the way they're being run in Florida and in a lot of parts of the U.S., like, dude, I went to the Sunshine Grand Prix, and I'm not going to hold back. Because
where was that?
That was in, man, where was it? It was outside of Orlando, in Inverness, Florida.
Okay.
And, like, you know, this was run by, like, Tim Molyneux, Frankie Andrea was the announcer, and it's like, that event was about making money for that event and not supporting the riders at all.
What happened?
Man, I won a preem in the Pro 1-2 race, and I got a St. Patrick's Day t-shirt from the year before. You know what I mean? This is the Pro 1-2 race, and they're ringing the bell, and I'm going to sprint my ass off, and I got a t-shirt from the year before. I don't even want the t-shirt, dude. Like, I don't even have space for that t-shirt in my wardrobe, you know what I mean? Like, give me $20 or $50 or $100 or something like that. But that race was not about cultivating the sport. It's about making money for that race, and you can see it like straight through. I was so disappointed with that event. But I think that kind of mentality is, I mean, we see it in a lot of these races down here in Florida. There's not so much, you know, endorsing or supporting the growth or development of the riders in the sense that, like, look, man, Zambrano is a badass rider, dude. That guy is strong rider. If whatever category he's in, you know what I mean?
He's going to make the race hard for whoever's racing with him, for sure.
Yeah, he can race Pro 1-2, man. Like, he's a good rider. And so, like, for me, definitely, I'd be like, what do you mean this guy doesn't get a jersey? You know what I mean? Like, he deserves it because he's training hard. He's investing a lot into his fitness, into his nutrition, into being a really good athlete.
Sure.
And that transpires into the time. So if he's setting times like similar to guys even above his category, how are you going to tell me that guy doesn't deserve a jersey?
Well, I think that's why you have to, maybe there has to be a way of quantifying it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have some people, wow, I'm trying to say this without stepping on anybody's toes, but if the fastest time of the day is X, if the fastest time of the day is, I don't know, say, I'm going to use the kilo on the track because that's really quantifiable.
Right.
A lot of stuff in the track is quantifiable, but the fastest time of the day is a minute flat.
Okay.
Okay, and the fastest XY, you know, and the general masses are averaging, you know, a minute 8 to a minute and 10 seconds, right? But you have a category where there's no competition and somebody does 2 minutes,
Right.
that person doesn't get a medal. I was at national championships a few years ago, and there was a category of one of the women's categories. I don't remember which age division it was, but there were no women signed up to do the match sprints.
Yeah.
And I saw someone hear this announcement that no women were signed up to do the match sprints, went out and literally just pedaled across the line to qualify with a 200.
Wow.
And she won a national championship jersey, a medal.
Wow.
And that's a problem because it's expensive for the promoters.
Yeah.
It's expensive for the federation, and it's not a legitimate representation of a champion.
Yeah, because now that person's qualified to go to world championships, and that person's going to represent your country. That's yeah. For me, I mean, this can transpire into a whole nother topic about how the events are kind of being run here in the United States, and this whole like equal prizes for men and women, even if there's 5 women signed up for the race. Like this is something that like is seriously wrong with the structure of our sport, and I'm all for like everybody, you know, having the same opportunity to compete, and I'm not saying women don't deserve this, but like that is a structure right now in USA Cycling that's holding these events back immensely, because people want to go to watch the pro men race. You know what I mean? Like they want to see the pro men, but the events don't have any prize money because they want to put up 10 grand for the men, they have to put up 10 grand for the women. That's why we don't have the Del Rey Twilight anymore. You know, like I'm good friends with the owner of that race, and it's like, dude, we just can't do it. Everybody wants to come see the pro men race. We want to have 50,000 for them, but we can't afford to have 50,000 for them and the women.
That's an interesting dilemma, because how do you solve? We're RidersRepChannel, solving the problems of the world.
Yeah, seriously.
But really, how do you fix that? That's definitely something that chances are what I'm going to do with this conversation is branch it onto a whole show to itself.
Yeah.
Because, for example, that's like the Del Rey situation.
Yeah.
But I just was at Winston-Salem. And the Winston-Salem had 140 women.
That's sick.
That were crushing it, super aggressive.
That's awesome.
And the men field did the same thing.
Same thing here in Tulsa. Like, those girls were throwing down. They deserved every single penny that was out there. You know what I mean?
So how do you quantify the value of one race versus another, considering you have to advertise it up in advance? You know, you have to be able to say the prize money is X before the event. There's really no way to do that without running that risk.
Yeah, I hate to bring up like issues or like, you know, tough areas in the market without having a solution. I'm a solution-based person, and for me, I just know like I have relationships with some of these event owners, and that race organizing space is a competitive space because there's only so many weeks in a year. Everybody wants to have the big event.
Sure.
And they're often, I mean, you know this, they're often put in a position where they're taking all the risks. They don't have a lot of pre-regs. But in order to get anybody to come to your race, you need to have that prize money. You know what I mean? You need to have.
So what came first, the chicken or the egg kind of thing?
Yeah.
The prize money or the contestants?
And so when they're seeing like 5 or 6 girls pre-registered for, you know, their main category, and they know they've got to pay out big bucks for this category.
It's scary.
That's scary. I mean, anybody can put themselves in that position. And I think the issue is like we don't necessarily like cycling's not that, road cycling particularly is not that huge of a sport, you know, like triathlons are way bigger at this point.
Sure.
And we just don't have that many high level, I mean we do have a lot, but we don't, like in comparison to whatever any other sport, we don't have that many high level women racers to the point where they can facilitate a full registration at 3 events across the nation.
Well, so I've heard a suggestion before being made, and using triathlon as an example, the way it works with those guys is the pro men and the pro women get paid, and everybody else either gets a medal or gets whatever, but they don't dip into that prize fund. And maybe that is something that we need to look into in the cycling community, and this way we're not taking away from the people who are trying to make a living doing it and really have it on the line. Not saying that the Masters riders or the junior riders or anybody else who are competing for prize money don't deserve it, but maybe that's something that we can do to accommodate more prize money for those people. If you look at how many masters categories there are and how much prize money is going to 35 plus, 45 plus, 55 plus, and everybody else, it really does take a lot from the funding that could be going to maybe the women's racing to bring more women racers. And maybe the problem isn't necessarily that there isn't enough funding for the women's racing or for everybody to have equal payment, but maybe we're giving money to people who don't necessarily need it, like those other categories, and that might be able to help bring more people into the sport.
I think for me, I agree with you, but I think for me, the most important categories to get paid are juniors. Juniors need money, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
They got to get new stuff. They have, a lot of these masters are business owners, man. Entrepreneurs riding $10,000 bikes. The last thing they need is, $100 prize money.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these guys are really successful guys, and I just don't agree with masters and even Cat 5s, Cat 4s, even Cat 3s, I would say, taking prize money from Pro 1-2s because, being a pro cyclist and being able to earn money through cycling is not something that should be taken lightly. We work our ass off to be at that high level, man. And I'm not saying that masters don't, but there's a difference. You get into a high level 1 race on the national level. Like I just came back from Tulsa Tough, man. That's a high level race.
Sure.
You can't just jump on your bike, no training, and get in there, man. And even guys that train a lot of hours are getting dropped out of these races.
Sure, sure.
Good local Cat 1s, are getting shelled out the back door regularly. But
you have a local race. You've got a race in City A and a race in City B. And you're a 35 plus Masters rider, right? Most people are going to look at the prize money in race A and the prize money in race B and make their decision of what they're going to do. And they also look at, well, if they have an opportunity to win back some money, then maybe they would do a race. If they don't have an opportunity to win back some money, well, maybe they just go and do a group ride instead. And maybe choose not to support the local scene. And it's weird. You also have people who will go around, brag. You see it on Facebook. You see it on whenever. I won $20 this, in a race this weekend or whatever, where, again, that money could be used for supporting either the higher level women's races or the higher level men's races or the juniors who can use it. One of the cool things that we are going to have on our show in the next few weeks is I am speaking with a couple of promoters, and we're going to discuss this topic as well.
Yeah.
Because it really is something that is a very active discussion in the cycling community, internationally, nationally, locally, whatever. And I think this is really an important topic because one of the things that we want to do on this show is discuss how to get more people riding bikes, how to get more people competing. And I don't know, I just don't believe that it's the subject of, well, more people are playing video games, so they're not racing. I think there's an answer to it.
Yeah, there's an answer to it. And it's like, listen, here's my perspective on this, right? I forget where I heard this, but it was just so mind-blowing when I heard it. It's like, we're competing in the sport of cycling, in my business, and on YouTube, on a podcast. We are all competing for attention, right? And to acquire attention, you have to go where the attention is,
Yeah.
This was a large part of my discussion at Eurobike last year. Is like, look, man, none of these bike companies are advertising where the attention is. Guys, get your businesses on Instagram. Every kid is on Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube. Why are you guys not investing in the people that are promoting there? Just because you think your brand, your target market is somebody who's like Pinarello. They're selling $5,000 bike frames. You know what I mean? Their market. And if you ride a Pinarello, dude, you realize, this bike is not for somebody racing crits.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
this is just not an aggressive bike. It's designed to be comfortable for that 45, 55-year-old guy. Sure, they sponsor Team Sky. Who knows if Team Sky even rides the stock Pinarello? You know what I mean? Because, like, I get on that thing, and it is soft, dude. Like, those bikes are not for somebody putting out big watts accelerating out of every corner. It's just not there, right? But Pinarello has a lot of freaking fans that are 13 years old, you know what I mean? Who are, like, dying to get on that. And Pinarello has the ability to grow the sport by being in front of their faces. Like, why are kids not out there playing baseball? Because they're occupying their time on Facebook on their tablet. So it's up to that baseball organization to get in front of them on that tablet where they are. You know, go where the attention is. Don't expect the attention to come to you, which is what a lot of these brands do. And so my personal perspective on, and like that's one of our advocacies with Bear. So
what's Bear?
Bear Composites is my carbon fiber company, and it's something that started from my media company, right? So we have a shell media company, and then Bear Composites is a way that we could generate revenue, provide a good product, and allow us to grow the sport. Similar to what you want to do is we want to get more people on bikes. But the core focus of our company, aside from like making good carbon products, is to create media, to put content out there, because content is what is going to grow the sport. Let people know that cycling is a cool freaking thing. You know, go and look at how many highlight soccer videos right now are on YouTube. Like, how many sick videos where you watch a soccer video and you're like, dude, this sport is amazing.
When you watch the guy run after scoring a goal, he rips his shirt off and slides out. Like, that makes me want to play soccer.
Yeah,
you know,
even though I can't play soccer.
Oh,
but,
God, yeah.
Right?
Disaster.
And so, like, why is there not more of that in cycling? And it's not that people aren't passionate about cycling, dude, because, like, people are crazy passionate about cycling.
Sure.
But there's just not enough people or companies supporting growth in the right way. Everybody's, like, so confined to this limited market space. They're all fighting over this space that just doesn't freaking exist. The only reason the limited market is there is because that's what the brand and executives have limited themselves to. They're all fighting over a space that doesn't exist, which is why, like, you wouldn't believe this, but, like, I don't even look at what any of my other competitors are doing. And a lot of, like, CEOs or professional... I love when people say to me, Zack, you're supposed to be this, like, professional entrepreneur. And I'm like, dude, I don't give a crap about any stereotype of how I'm supposed to act, dress, speak. You know, to me, it's just totally irrelevant. Like, honestly, if my company gets huge enough one day, I'll just hire somebody to, like, keep an eye on what's important. But
Sure. Well, you got to walk your own path.
Yeah.
And if you walk your own path to the way that you want to, then it kind of ties back to authentically doing your best.
Yeah.
And we were talking about authentically doing your best as far as your training and your racing, and it does the same thing for your business.
Absolutely.
If you're authentically doing the best that you can to provide value for your customers or for the people who are watching your channel or for whatever it is, then of course you feel like you won. You may not win in terms of crossing the line first, but you're going to feel good about what effort you really put forward, and therefore you're going to be successful and you're going to be happy
just to give you a little bit of context on why I became so proactive and aggressive in this sport is because I watched from the outside from a media perspective. All I did was look at the numbers for like 2 years and did nothing, and just saw who was making decisions in the sport and who they were supporting. And I got to this point where I was like so frustrated because I saw all these talented, hardworking people, and it's still out there. And, you know, I'm not in a position to do more. I wish I was, but there's so many people out there who are not being supported properly. Mm-hmm. You know, whether it's content creators or people facilitating growth in the sport, whatever way that they're doing, people who are out there genuinely wanting to be a personal brand, wanting to inspire people to get out on bikes, wanting to inspire people to just be healthy, they're just not being supported properly, and there's not enough avenues for them to get support. And so that's one of the reasons why I was like, okay, dude, like,
you could do it.
Somebody who came up in this sport, who went through those struggles, like, dude, it's up to me right now. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. I have the ability to help people. I can create platforms where people can, you know, generate revenue, where people can get exposure, where people can get more followers, more likes, whatever,
Sure.
blah, 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 build their own brand. And I said to myself, I'm like, dude, you need to just take a stand. You need to be an adult here, and like,
Sure.
And no matter how much criticism I get, because I get a lot of haters. You know what I mean?
You had a good story today about this weekend for sure.
And no matter how much of that I get, I had a conversation with myself just this weekend. It's like, no matter what, I'm gonna go back home and I'm gonna continue doing what I'm doing, and that's providing value to the people that follow me.
Sure.
So that they can take that and grow themselves.
Well, it comes back to, again, authentically doing the best that you can do. You know, I listen to a lot of Tim Ferriss, and Tim Ferriss is a very well-known, famous podcaster.
Okay.
And he speaks to top performers in
Right.
whatever the field. And a lot of the podcasts that I listen to are along that vein. And these guys are awesome. But at the same time, there's going to be people that are going to detract from them, and people who are going to say that they don't know what they're talking about. Look at Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
This guy has motivated millions and millions of people, and you're still going to get people who are going to say that this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's different strokes for different folks, but you put
100%.
out the best content that you can and the best that you can. With that said, kind of circling back around to the racing.
Yeah.
So, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who has a specialty of thinking outside the box, what would you do if Zack Morris was race promoter to start getting more people out, get more competitive riders in the fields? Would you do something different, or what would you change?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, I would do something different. So I was so stoked to be at Tulsa this year because I saw a brand, and I'm talking about the Tulsa organization, Tulsa Tough, that race promoter. I saw a brand that was like ready for 2018. Like, okay, it is what it is. The internet has taken over this industry. The internet has taken over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Play the game. Don't complain about what it is. You know what I mean? Double down on what's happening right now and stop bitching about how it used to be. Because it's never going back to the way it was. The world is on Facebook. The world is on YouTube. The world is on Instagram and Snapchat.
And Amazon and everything else.
And you need to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not there, you're out the back door. You're dropped.
So what would you do?
So I would do similar to what they are doing. So this year, I think next year you're going to see a lot of really hot content for Tulsa Tough. They spent a lot of money this year on production. They had
recording a lot of stuff.
They had the best live streams there. They had so many people out there on the streets like that. They were able to facilitate basically the set or the scenery for a really viral video to showcase this emotion. Now, what they do in post-production, obviously, we're still yet to see.
Sure.
But what they captured there at that event is promotional content that can not only grow the sport, but grow their event. I think next year, Tulsa Tough is going to have probably the best marketing out of all the events because they're doubling down on the media side of it. That's what I would do differently.
So they're showing people having a good time, or they're showing big fields?
Well, I don't know what they're showing yet, but all I can see, being a creative, I saw what they captured, and they captured a lot of emotion, they captured a lot of atmosphere, they captured a lot of stuff that sells on the internet.
Sure.
Right? And so, and also they captured a lot of content that will get good organic reach. I've yet to see what they're going to do with it, right? But I saw what they captured, and how they disperse that content and how they deliver it across their different channels is ultimately going to impact their result. But what I would do, back to your question.
So if you were a race promoter, Zack Morris race promoter, South Florida, what would you do?
Yeah, if I was Zack Morris, that's a very specific niche. If I was, first of all, I would not be a race promoter in South Florida.
Why not?
I don't like the market here. I don't like the race market here. I'm not a huge fan of the type of people that are, coming out to the races. I feel like there's a lot of negative people here in South Florida, and I wouldn't want to facilitate the growth of that kind of attitude. Now, if I was looking for the biggest challenge of my career, and I was like, okay, I'm going to take a place and turn it around and build this like community aspect, I would do it. But like,
well, say there's there are a ton of people in South Florida that are not racing.
Yeah.
So as a promoter, you have the ability to turn things around.
Okay.
And to get new people out, and to get new faces, and to change that negative racing atmosphere. I remember in the 90s, you would have fights at almost every race.
That
Guys,
sucks.
literally, I watched a guy get hit in the head with a baseball
That
bat
sucks.
after one of the South Florida
You don't
races.
want to bring your family to that.
Right. And it's definitely gotten better. I haven't seen a fight in a long time down here, but there has to be a way to bring out new people, to change things. One of the things that I thought about, and I've spoken with a couple of the local race promoters about doing, you see it in California, you see it in some other places, but they used to do these street sprints.
Yeah,
And
because they're doing that in Tour Somerville next year. I talked to the promoter of that event.
It's awesome. And you can get people on BMX bikes, you can get people on fixie bikes, you can get people on track bikes, road bikes, whatever, and create a 200 meter, 300 meter stretch of road, and people are doing that, and it's all in front of the crowds. You can have all kinds of ways to make it exciting.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I think that is something that's new that you may be able to cross promote.
I don't think it's new. They've been doing that for a long time. Like,
well, it'd be new to bring it back.
Yeah, it would be like, yeah.
Well, that would be a kind of racing that I would enjoy doing. Keep me from getting dropped in the crits, but that's a whole different story. So kind of going back, you know, obviously trying to do things differently, but what would you do to get more people out to races, get more people off of the group rides? You'll get a group ride with 300 people and a race with 50 people.
Yeah, so, I mean, specifically here in South Florida, a lot of the people that I ride with, very strong riders, could easily race, but are not interested to go to the negative atmosphere that the races are here. That's just here. I don't know if it's like that. I don't think it's like that everywhere else in America. But, you know, you get to a certain point in your life where you're like, just not down to take any more shit, dude. Like, you work hard every day, and you want to invest your time in things that you get good experiences from. And if you got to take time away from your family, or you have to take your family with you somewhere, you want to bring them on the weekend to a good environment. You don't want to bring them to a hostile situation where everybody's stressed out. And so a lot of these events here in Miami, you know, they don't really facilitate the overall experience for a good family day. And I think that is a huge fundamental in the foundation of any successful event.
So maybe doing things, making it more family focused than just a bike race.
Yeah. So here, you remember my supplement company, right? So we were the sponsor of a lot of big events. I did 65 events that in 1 year, you know, like 3 days a week I was on the road.
Busy.
And then, you know, we sponsored the Miami Marathon, we sponsored the South Beach Marathon, we sponsored the Fort Lauderdale Marathon. And what these event organizers are doing in other endurance sports that are more accessible, when I say more accessible, I mean like to go do a run, you need a pair of shoes.
Right, for a bike, it's a lot more.
Yeah, you need a bike and all this gear and there's all these rules and all this stuff, right? So
licenses and things like that, right?
Just hectic, right? So what these running events are doing, and what a lot of these different events are doing, is getting more companies involved in what they're doing. And so I think that they do a better job in saying like, hey, look, you own a brand, Mike. You sell juice, like organic fresh pressed juice. Come out to the event. You want to sell, you can, but I think you should give away some samples as well. And now here's a brand that everybody knows. They're out at the event, and people recognize that brand is there, right? And so by doing that, or maybe have like there's the stretch zone. What was that? There's a stretch zone here. So they were at every running event giving people free stretches, right? Promoting their business, and they actually pay to go to those events. And a lot of these companies pay to go to the events. So that's what I don't see at bike racing, is a lot of companies paying to be in front of the audience because they see the value in being there, plus giving product away, plus or giving services away. So
making it more of a festival kind of environment than just we're coming out, we're racing bikes, and we're leaving kind of thing. Because a lot of the times the courses require lane closures, things like that you're limited to the amount of time.
Yeah.
But I've seen that may be a good solution, is making it more. Now, there's also one coming up, my understanding, Labor Day in South Florida, in Weston. and what they're talking about
that's Kevin's event?
That's going to be Kevin's event, and Kevin's going to hopefully come on the show and talk about it.
Yeah.
And what's they're talking about for this is making it a very, very big family friendly.
I believe in Kevin.
Event.
I think Kevin, if out of everybody here in South Florida, I think he's got the best chance of being a good event company. I mean, I think what's going on with Fernando down in South Florida is just terrible. I think that guy.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that's just my personal opinion. But the way he runs events, I think it's just like, okay, go in, get money, and get out.
Yeah.
He's just running it like a business. And as much as event organization is a business, there's the emphasis needs to be on the community aspect, not the business side of it. Okay?
If you build it, they will come.
Exactly.
Yeah. As a successful athlete who's been riding for a really long time, what's the best piece of advice that you could offer to a young rider who's just getting started riding bikes and has a desire to compete?
The best piece of advice. Oh, train hard. That's the best piece of advice I can give you is like ride your freaking bike and don't be afraid to fail. If you're going to get better, and this is something that I see so many people just fighting to do. They won't push themselves to that point of like just absolute exhaustion, like to the point where you're just so deep you can't even think. Like in order to improve, you need to get there, and if you're not willing to go into that zone, pick a different sport because you're always just going to be average. And if you're wanting to compete and you're somebody that wants to get good results, you've got to push yourself to that mental limit in your training to the point where you're just failing. Don't be afraid to fail. That would be the number one tip.
Okay. And I guess that would really be a big piece of advice for everybody, for anything that you do in life. Yeah. Really, you swing big, you swing for the fences, and you really go for it.
I mean, that's just kind of like my mentality, whether it's business, whether it's training, whatever it is, I'm all in.
Yeah.
100%, and that's it.
One of the cool things about Zack is Zack has started, created, and built several businesses that you guys are probably aware of, but just didn't know that Zack was involved with it. Zack has been involved in so many successful businesses and ventures that he was invited last year to speak at Eurobike and do a full presentation on marketing and growing a business. Do you have anything that you would offer to an entrepreneur who's looking to either start in the bike business or who is in the bike business but looking to take their stuff to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, this could be a huge conversation in itself, but
maybe we'll have another show on this. If we go on another tangent, I will definitely create another complete new show for this.
And so the focus of the presentation was like, what can I do in an hour to bring the bike business up to speed? Because the bike business, again, is competing in spaces where there's not a lot of attention. And so for anybody who wants to start a business or wants to expand their current business, I would say go to where the attention is. Double down on what is happening in 2018. Forget about what happened in the past. It's all gone. Right now you need to focus on social media. Don't spend $1 million on advertising on, the news stations.
Paper magazines and things like that.
Spend $1 million on creating your own podcast.
Do you do any kind of consulting work?
Yeah, I do. I'm very.
Why don't you give your website or contact information so people can contact you for consulting?
So you can email me. It's savage@bearcomposites.com.
Okay.
I didn't want to have another email like info@bearcomposites.com. It's like, no, dude. I'm a savage. Email me savage@bearcomposites.com.
There you go. There you go. I'm going to put a link down below here for you to get in touch with Zack as well. He's got a lot of really good information and things that Zack can share to help you to be able to grow your business. So I think that would be a possible good kind of...
Yeah, so that's something I'm going to start putting a little bit more energy on, because I get a lot of these questions every day. Like right now, if you go on my Instagram DMs, like I have an abundance of these messages, and I literally don't have the time to respond to everybody as much as I want to. So I'm thinking of, geez, Zach, another project. Like I just have so much
I've got
stuff,
a million of them
right,
too,
right?
and
It's
there's
like,
just never, and it's hard to really balance everything out. But
I know you do.
it's good.
That's why we're kind of in the same situation. But I'm starting to think of something that I can do to create a platform to give information to brand owners and more on the consulting side, because I do work with a couple of brands, but they're pretty much like my friends.
Yeah,
You know, like people that I genuinely want to help, that I've gone to and been like, dude.
But you only have so much bandwidth,
The
right?
bike shop up the road. My buddy Vinny. You know Vinny?
Mm-hmm.
B&J's? Like, I bought my first bike from Vinny at 15. I'm like, dude, you've had your bike shop for 30 years. He has his own e-bike brand
Sure.
now. Like, dude, let me help you.
What's the name of his e-bike brand?
Enzo.
Enzo?
Enzo e-bikes.
So
yeah.
Enzo e-bikes?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, you guys can check it out. It's a cool brand.
Yeah, awesome. So, I guess going back to the cycling, right?
Okay.
We've been on the business side of it for a while
Which
now.
we can spend a lot of time there.
Zach and I have been talking about putting together a show, and I did an interview on Zach's channel pretty recently, which is, what's the name of your channel?
It's just Zack Morris on YouTube.
ZackMorris.
Yeah.
Not the guy from Saved by the Bell. This is a different one, so go check it out. But what we're finding is that Zach and I both have a lot of things to talk about industry-wise, and things that could be very beneficial for people who are entrepreneurs and people who are on the business side of this to learn. And this is just telling me that I think that we may be that much more in need to create something like that.
Well, there's so many of these topics floating around, Mike. Like this, so I have a really kind of unique, a perspective on what's going on, because I'm racing pro, right? I'm also a brand owner,
and you're also in the field of social media, marketing, management. So you really wear all three hats at the same time.
and so I'm getting like I'm so aware of the problems that are going on, and I see it so clearly, and everybody talks about it. Everybody is like, dude, these are the problems. Like I see, like this weekend I had a hotel. I had 3 Pro 1-2 racers in my hotel room, and I'm hearing, what their day-to-day problems are, right? And
I'd be curious of what that is.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm also a sponsor of the team, and then I'm going to the events, and I'm like, dude, in my last company, my job was to organize events, sign,
Sure.
like go to these events. And so I have this like perspective of like all of the things that are going on. Like I have a full understanding
Sure.
of all of the
Which
workings.
is unique compared to what most people see. You see a lot of different aspects of the sport and the business that are not available to most people.
No, and so like I feel like this obligation right now, Mike, to like solve problems. You know what I mean? Like everybody's
we
got
want to
these,
get it better.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose of
Yeah.
this show and this channel. And what you're doing is we want to bring awareness to what issues are coming up and how to solve them and how to grow and become better.
And like there's a mentality in cycling where like people are afraid to bring problems up because people are always that's the way it is, suck it up. And it's like, no, that's not how you solve stuff. You identify that there's a problem, right? You don't bitch and complain about it forever, but you gotta bring awareness to it or nothing is gonna happen.
One of the things that I'm doing with our show, in addition to what you're talking about, is we're speaking with promoters of different types of events. So, for example, gravel is huge.
So exciting.
And I've got the promoter of a very big gravel event in South Florida that's going to be on the show very soon. And
which event is that? Fakawi?
Fakawi. Yeah, Jimmy
I haven't met him.
Toro from Fakawi is going to come on, and we're going to talk about, how to we're getting almost 1,000 people for this Fakawi event.
That's so cool.
And it's amazing how we're drawing people to other events, but maybe they're not coming to the road. So we're going to talk about things like that, and by bringing on promoters from different aspects of the sport, the more popular to the less popular, I will do what I can to get triathlon promoters on, some running promoters as well.
Knowledge is power, right? Like, and everybody has good ideas. So yeah, the more knowledge you can have, the more energy you can absorb from all these different promoters. I think the stronger
it's going to build. It's going to build
Exactly.
the scene, and that's really what we're trying to do. And when I say scene, I don't mean South Florida. I mean the scene, and the entire the cycling worldwide, nationwide. But you got to start with your local community
For sure.